Super Tuesday, everybody. What's up? It's the Token and Hobbs show on the Road to Liberty podcast. I'm your host, Token, joined my partner in crime is Justin Hobbs. What's up, my man?
Not too much. Here's another Tuesday, another glorious, glorious Tuesday to be on the Think Liberty Network.
Not just any Tuesday, my friend. Super Tuesday, and we're going to be talking about it tonight. As of right now, Democrats are choosing which old bag of wind they want to represent their party, which idiot they think would make the best president of the United States. So that's very exciting. But before we get into that, first I'd like to say a little something. This last weekend, I had the honor of attending the Libertarian Party of Iowa State Convention over Des Moines, and it was excellent. It was an excellent time. I was there with a couple guys from the Think Liberty crew. Got absolutely wasted, which is always a lot of fun. Haven't done that in a while. And we got to watch a presidential debate and record a little reaction video. So if you guys are subscribed to the Think Liberty Network, make sure to tune in there and give it a watch. Once that's up, we'll let you guys know. But we have a very special guest with us tonight. He is Mr. Lou Perez. What is up, my man?
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's a fun night. Of all the nights to have a special guest on the show, Super Tuesday is probably the best night of all.
And I feel like an old man because it's 10 o'clock on the East Coast, and normally I'd be in bed right now. But you young bucks are keeping me up, keeping the party going.
Yeah. Let's keep the party going all night. We'll be here till 10 o'clock, and all you fine folks watching in the live stream, make sure to leave a comment, have it read on the air. So if you got a question for Lou or any of us, comment, be part of the show. So first thing we wanted to do is you guys recently shot a video where you took a trip to Sweden.
Yeah. I'm for those of you who are just meeting me for the first time, I'm the head writer and executive producer for We the Internet TV. We do comedy videos, many of them political satire, and every now and then we dabble in the mini doc genre. So this is the second mini doc that I've made for We the Internet TV. The first mini doc we made was called 5 Reasons Why We Need Hate Speech, which was a little controversial and obviously a kind of title that you want to lure people into seeing what this thing's going to be about. The second one, that I just did, not as controversial. I went to Sweden and produced a video called 5 Reasons Why We Need Sweden's Democratic Socialism. And we just dropped that on Friday. It's available on YouTube and Facebook.
Yeah, I got to watch the video today. Very informative.
Thank you.
Very humorous. We want to show a little bit of that video for our viewers here right now. So I'm going to pull that up on the stream for you guys. Yep, here it is. This is a little bit of 5 reasons we need democratic socialism. So like one of the big things, the reasons for this video is because Bernie Sanders, obviously, he's out there arguing for democratic socialism. We need Sweden's system. We need what Sweden has. But he doesn't actually. There's a lot of things about the Swedish system that he doesn't seem to want, or he just ignores it completely. So let's get into that.
The dirty little secret of the Swedish model is that we don't squeeze the rich, we squeeze the poor. We take most of the money from the poor and the middle classes because they are loyal taxpayers. They don't move to Monaco, they don't have tax lawyers or anything like that. The bulk of income tax payments is from a payroll tax at around 30%, and then a local regional income tax at 30%, and they're both flat taxes, not progressive. And then we get almost as much as we get in income taxes. We take in excise taxes and consumption taxes. We have a VAT at 25%. So the poor pay exactly the same when they go to the store and buy whatever they need as the rich do. That's what Swedish Social Democrats realized fairly early on. We can have a big government, or we can make the rich pay for it all, but we can't do both of these things.
How can you be a progressive country if you don't have...
Yeah, pretty much. That's
You gotta stop it right there. We gotta stop it right there on that awesome just getting out of the shower shot. It's like,
Are we back?
ooh, yeah, we're back.
Yeah, how about we just focus a little bit on Lou getting out of the shower.
If the audience is just seeing me, my apologies. I'm not sure what's happening on the tech front.
God damn it.
It's just you coming out of that shower in that video.
Hey, he's having the same thing happen to him that happened to my guests on Friday because he's on mobile. It dropped him whenever you go to the full screen.
Lou, can you see us?
Can you hear us? No? Fuck. Hang on. I'll text him.
All right. Anyway, yeah, this is what the video is about. It's about Swedish socialism and how the system that is advocated by people like Bernie Sanders isn't really the system that Sweden actually has. So he's advertising false good. What you have in Sweden is a system not where the rich and big businesses pay for everything. What you have is a system where the average taxpayer has to pay for the entirety of the government, right?
Mhm.
So it's not taking from the rich and giving to the poor, because they realize this in Sweden. It is very easy to realize if you just tax a group of people insane amounts, right? But they have the wealth to escape your taxation, they're gonna do it. They're not gonna stick around. They're not gonna be there forever. They're going to leave, and this is what Sweden found out.
Yeah, that's the other thing that the Bernie guys don't seem to realize. Hey Lou, welcome back.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was in a like kind of a black hole right there. I wasn't sure what was happening.
Yeah, it did this on Friday when I had two guests on Friday that they were also on mobile, and whenever you jump to like pull up a full screen video to play it, the mobile just like drops out for some reason. So
jeez.
we can't do that, Nathan.
Wow, well, you should have told me. I wouldn't have done it.
I thought it was something specific with last week, but I guess everybody on mobile does that. So now it's like, shooting star, more blah blah blah.
Well, I hope I didn't miss much. So.
Oh no, we pretty much just went over what they said in that clip of the video, where in Sweden they have high rates of taxation on the poor and middle class instead of just on the millionaires and the billionaires, because those people can escape. Right, those people can get out of the country, go to tax havens where the Swedish government has no ability to tax them. But the people that can't escape, the people who are stuck in that country, they're left holding the bag, having to pay for everything.
Yeah, I think one of the big problems with U.S. politicians is when they try to self-label and they'll call themselves, something like a democratic socialist. And then they'll point to countries like the Nordic countries, Denmark, Sweden, that are not democratic socialists. So it's very weird to hear somebody self-identify as one thing and point to an example that isn't what they are or isn't what they're claiming to be. And when it comes to Sweden, in this particular example with taxation, one of my big takeaways is that the Swedes are very practical. And the whole idea being, hey, if you want a large welfare state, you're not going to be able to pay for it just by taxing billionaires and millionaires, like you said. Everybody's going to have to pay for it. And oftentimes you don't see that in the U.S. with politicians guaranteeing all of this free stuff and saying, oh, but we're just going to be able to pay for it by putting a small tax on Wall Street or something like that. When in reality, it's like, no, if you do want these huge social programs, everybody is going to pay for it, and the ones who are going to suffer are the people who don't have accountants that can tax plan, and or the people who can't just get up and leave. Like there are a lot of countries right now that are sort of opening their doors to wealthy people to come and live there. So I think Italy is one of those countries that's, offering basically a nice pad for, super wealthy people to come and move their residences. So
yeah, the guy in the clip, he said that the lower and middle classes, he called them loyal taxpayers, but I think a more appropriate title for them would be a captive audience.
Mhm.
Because he essentially said, they can't just up and move their assets out of country. So I don't really think that loyalty would be the appropriate moniker for those people. But yeah, the thing that also strikes me as being a great deal of difference between the Nordic and European models of taxation and government subsidized services like healthcare and education and things like that is when we have the argument about it here in the United States, and we point to those countries over there, or they point to us, it's like we're kind of talking past each other. Because when I look at that 30% payroll tax, 30% regional income tax, 25% VAT tax in order to get subsidized education, subsidized healthcare, things like that, I look at that and I say that's 85% of your income, more or less, for college and a sprained ankle every now and again. That's insane. But they see that as a necessary price to pay, or they don't see that as a problem. So that's kind of what we get when we're talking past each other, is they don't see that as a problem, whereas we in America see that type of wealth confiscation as being just like way too much government.
Yeah, and the reality is Sweden is a relatively small country. I believe it's like 10 million people or something like that, compared to the U.S. That's what are we at? 330 million, and
Yep.
We have 50 states, and just look at what's happening in the primaries. Just among one party, there are so many different alliances and different values and different ideas about the role of government, and what that should be, and also what changes people want to see. So I think I love the fact that in the United States you have so many different pockets of diverse people with different ideas. I mean, it would be a lot easier for a country where everybody viewed taxation the same way, or everybody viewed social services the same way, or if everybody felt as though that they were getting out as much as they were putting in. And the fact of the matter is, you have a lot of people. For example, I live in New York, where I'm like, dude, where are my taxes going, man? Like, what's going on here? I'm maybe to you guys, I'm in the belly of the beast, and all that, but
Behind enemy lines.
yeah, behind enemy lines, doing my service as a small L libertarian in Brooklyn.
One of the things your taxes are going for is removing homeless people and sending them to New Jersey.
Oh, is that real? Is that happening? No way.
Yeah, a few weeks ago, we talked to a guy that lived in New Jersey, and apparently that's one of the things that the mayor of New York City is like busing people into low-income housing in New Jersey, because the living standards and the building standards in New Jersey are low enough that they could just ship them off over there. And Jersey's like, keep your fucking homeless people to yourself.
Wow, man. I was unaware of that, as somebody who rides the subway multiple times a week. It doesn't seem like they're shipping them off fast enough, I guess.
maybe they're not, but this is not for a lack of trying, mind you.
Right.
New York is very diligent in trying to ship all their homeless people to New Jersey.
I'd say we're only like 2 years away from the Soylent Green, like, scoop trucks that just come and like scoop them up and throw them in the back, and the scoops are on their way.
Man, I'll tell you what, I've come across many homeless. I don't want to be eating them, man. Like, I would much rather. My wife teaches Pilates and bar, like these fitness exercises. I want to be eating some healthy people, man. If it comes down to it, I'm watching my macros.
If you're gonna eat homeless people, make them from San Francisco.
Ew, no.
Nah, man, because like the people that like give food to homeless people, they're giving them like organic kale and shit like that.
It's a really tough situation, because I have encounters with people living on the street, and a lot of them are, either, addicted to stuff or, have mental health problems. And it's so apparent, and it's one of those things where, you want to be humane about it. And I don't know necessarily what the solution is. I have a family member who works in housing, that works sort of in the, I forget what the department is called specifically, that works with homeless outreach. And the fact of the matter is that they do have a lot of empty beds where the homeless can sleep. And fortunately, when the weather's really bad in the wintertime, there are those services where homeless can go and make sure that they're taken care of. But come springtime when it's nice out, like who doesn't want to be hanging out in the nice areas, whether whether you have a place or you're homeless. So it's tough to restrict somebody's movement, especially if I don't even know what the criminal code is as far as what constitutes loitering or anything like that. Actually, I'd be interested what you guys think. Think about that. Coming from a libertarian standpoint.
You mean as far as reducing the homeless
Yeah,
population?
yeah, and dealing with the ones who are currently out there.
Well, I mean, one of the things you have to do to deal with the homeless problem is you have to increase the supply of housing. One of the big things going on in large cities like New York or states like California is that there just isn't affordable housing anywhere, right? So what you end up having is massive amounts of people, and you don't have enough supply to meet the demand. Right, so you have all these building codes, you have all these regulations in regards to what you can build, where you can build. I think a few months
Property
ago,
taxes.
yeah, a few months ago, we talked about a story where this company was going to build an apartment complex in San Francisco. Right, so they were going to build this apartment complex, and the local residents demanded that a certain percentage of the apartment homes in it be for low-income families. They're like, okay, fine. We'll set aside 15% of this for low income. And they're like, okay, we want 30%. I'm like, okay, we'll give 30%. Like, oh no, we want more. And every single time that they came through with another offer, the community demanded more. So at the end of the day, this company just said, we're not going to build this complex anymore. It's not worth the hassle. If we gave in to all these demands, we're not going to make enough money off this thing. No apartment complex. Well, that apartment complex was going to build hundreds of units for people to live in, right? Alleviating some of the problems with housing, so alleviating the shortage going on there. Now, instead of having hundreds of new units for housing, you have none of that, right? You got no new units, you got no new supply, and the demand just keeps going up. So you're going to have a crisis. You're going to have a housing crisis, and you're going to have a homeless crisis. It's what's going to end up happening. So you got to increase the supply of housing if you want any hope of satisfying the demand.
Yeah, and these very densely populated cities, where people have their own property, that's where the NIMBYism comes, where it's like not in my backyard, and all that. And I mean, to an extent, you can understand that. There was an issue in Manhattan up near, my family has a butcher shop, and they were looking to put, I think, a methadone clinic like a few blocks away from a school. So there were obviously people who were concerned about that. So you run into those issues. No doubt. I remember Reason TV did a video about this guy who was building tiny homes for the homeless in Los Angeles. So rather than having just basically tents, on Skid Row, he helped build quite a few of these houses where people could lock up their stuff and all that. But of course, it went against city code, so the city ended up coming and demolishing them, taking them away. And well, what did the homeless people do? Well, they just set up camp. So they're in tents now, which is not necessarily a safe way to be living.
So Carl says you can 3D print a house for like $4,000 now, and yeah, with the adequate materials, yeah, it's not very hard to build a small individual shelter that would be because here's what happens to a lot of people when they're homeless, right? You lose your job, you can't pay your lease, you end up on the street. Now what? Right? You have no address, you don't have a phone, you have no internet access, you can't shower, you don't have a place to put all your things. How are you going to find a decent job that pays you enough to get a home? Right? Because a lot of these people are mentally ill, right? That's a lot of people. But a lot of these people, they find themselves in a rut. And once you get to that place where you're homeless, it's very difficult to get out of it. Now, if you have these, like you said, like these tiny homes, not much, just a room, a place with a bed, maybe a communal shower, right? Place to put your clothes, a phone, something. If you have an address, then you can find a job. You can start to get back on your feet, right? But of course, the government's not going to let you do it. The government would rather have you out on the streets, sleeping in an alley somewhere, right? They'll readily provide you needles to shoot drugs into your arm, but God forbid somebody build a tiny home without their say-so. Can't have that.
Yeah, it's not always something that's nefarious, like they'd rather have you out on the street or anything like that. It's, they come up with these building codes and regulations and property taxes and these other things that are, as thick as a phone book to, they think it's going to be helping. Oh, we can't have somebody out there building tiny houses that aren't to code. What if one of them collapses and then this guy finds himself in a lawsuit against the city for daring to allow him to live in unsafe housing? It's all this proactive regulation that ends up doing more harm than good, but it's hard to argue against it because it comes from a place of good intentions. And that's where a lot of these laws come from, is people judge them by their intentions rather than their outcome.
Yeah, and that's what happens a lot of the time. And
there is no magic silver bullet, one thing that's going to end up stopping the homeless situation. Libertarians, they like to talk about charity, private charity work and everything, and that's all well and good for the people that actually do want to better their situation in life. But you do have a lot of people that do have mental illnesses, do have drug addiction, and at what point does your charity go from being a charitable act to enabling bad behavior?
Yeah. There's a guy in our neighborhood. Come springtime, the nice weather, he's shacking up underneath a church that's nearby, and the church has gone out of their way to try to have him removed, to try to find him a home and and all that stuff. But he's a free person who decides to camp out there, and it would behoove him, and it would help his situation a lot if he wasn't an asshole. But the guy's also an asshole. I mean, you walk by someone, you're like, oh wow, the guy's down on his luck. Maybe I can give him a hand. This guy says something to everybody who walks by, every single person who walks by. Like, if you're wearing something, if you're not wearing your best suit, he'll call you out on not wearing your best suit. It's like, what an asshole this fucking guy. Sorry, I just cursed. My apologies. So
no, I think
all the time.
We're all equal. You have people who are down on their luck, who are the most lovely people. You have people who are down on their luck, who are straight assholes. And it's being human, I guess. And
this is going to happen no matter what the political system you follow. There's always going to be homeless people, right? Like Hobbs said, there isn't a magic bullet. But you can follow certain policies that make it better, right? You can, for one, not punish churches for wanting to house homeless people in their church. I've seen that before, where a church will open its doors and say, hey, we will serve as a shelter. But they didn't get the government's permission, so now they got to kick all the homeless people out into the street. Or somebody will build tiny homes for homeless people, but you can't do that. Or somebody will try to cut their hair without a license or feed them in the street, right? There was that case in Florida where that old man would set up tables for homeless people and just feed them. And the government came and shut this down. We did a story about this a few weeks ago where I think it was in California. That was
Dallas.
It might have been Texas, right? It may have been Dallas. Where they did this. They set up tables for the homeless on Thanksgiving, I believe it was, but they armed themselves to intimidate the police to keep them away, because the local police in years past would come in and stop them, right? But ever since they started arming themselves, police didn't mess with them anymore. Didn't want anything to do with that.
Like, yeah.
So you want to arm the homeless? Is that what you're saying?
No, the volunteers were open carrying.
Right.
But I'm not exactly opposed to arming the homeless as long as it's voluntary.
I know. It's one of the. This is one of those shows where, like, my throwaway joke. It's like it actually hits so much on the philosophy where it's almost not a joke. It's like, well, wait, let's actually talk about that.
Let's harm. There's actually, I think there's a libertarian running for office in Michigan, and that was like his campaign slogan: "Arm the homeless."
No,
No, seriously, I'm not
No
joking.
way. Oh
That
my
was
God.
his slogan. I think. Oh my goodness, I want to say that he put it on a billboard.
Yeah.
Somewhere in Michigan. I can't remember what this dude's name was, but no joke. His slogan was "Arm the homeless."
This is my first time hearing of this, and I for one, I was not that politician running for office, and two, I did not endorse him. It just happened, these two minds thought alike, I guess.
Yeah, well, I mean, with Detroit being in Michigan, if you decided to arm the homeless even with a high point, I think that you would bankrupt the entire state.
All right, so it's Super Tuesday today. Let's talk a little bit about Super Tuesday. Let's go into this a little bit. So last week, it looked like Joe Biden was done, right? He didn't win in Iowa. He didn't win in Vermont. He didn't New Hampshire, excuse me. He didn't win in Nevada. His campaign looked all but done, and Bernie Sanders looked like he was going to run away with the nomination. And then Joe Biden comes away with almost 50% of the votes in South Carolina, and suddenly his campaign has life again. And tonight we're looking at results from around the country on Super Tuesday. And Joe freaking Biden is looking very good right now. And who would have thought a senile old man who can't put together 5 intelligible words would had a dead campaign, would rise like a zombie to be the Democratic frontrunner all of a sudden. So let's read some of these results. Alabama, Biden 62%, Sanders 16%. Virginia, Biden 53%, Sanders 23%. Tennessee, Biden 41%, Sanders 24%. Yada, yada, yada. He's leading in North Carolina, Oklahoma, Minnesota, Arkansas, Maine, Massachusetts. Sanders has 51% in Vermont. That's not a surprise. He's leading 36% to 21% in Colorado and 32 to 12 in Utah. Also, he has a 4-point lead in Texas. In California, polls are still open there. They got to be those lone guys out on the West Coast still voting. So there are no results out of there. But yeah, Joe Biden. Joe Biden is on the rise again, and Bernie Sanders has to be very nervous about this new development.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but there's a point where you see clips of candidates, and you're like, oh man, that one was really funny. That was really funny, and then it gets to the point where like, oh man, this is getting sad. This is really sad now, and I had that with with Joe Biden. There was people putting a supercut together of him, creepily. Hugging people and squeezing people, and it's like, okay, that's weird. And then he had that weird story about when he used to be a lifeguard or something like that.
Dude, that was the best.
Yeah, well, somebody animated it, and
Yes.
I remember, and I was like, the animation looked great. It looked fantastic. But then all of the stumbling, all of the, it seems like he's just completely out of it. It's really, for me, it's sad to watch. But somehow. It's still reaching the people, I guess, who are supporting him. So.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that you had angry Klobuchar, Mayor Pete, and Beto endorsed him now. So his 4-point lead in Texas might have something to do with Robert Francis endorsing him. And then Buttigieg was had a sizable chunk And with his endorsement behind Biden, that obviously probably flipped the scales a whole lot more. And angry Klobuchar, it's like who the hell cares about her? But yeah, this has all the makings of 2016 again, where Sanders is the one that has the grassroots support, but then the Democratic Party is going to take some of Bernie Sanders's rhetoric to heart and redistribute the votes.
Yeah, how do you what happens, after, say after Texas and California, after those results are in, do you see, anybody else dropping off? Because it looks like let's see, Tulsi Gabbard is hanging around. Warren is in fourth place. Do you think Bloomberg stays in it? Didn't he win the U.S. Samoa? Didn't he get that island vote or something like that?
I have no idea. Maybe the thing about Bloomberg is you have to reach 15% to get to be eligible for delegates in a state. Now I'm looking at the results. He has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's got 5 states right now where he's earned delegates, and those just barely. His biggest vote total right now is in Colorado with 22%. That's his largest vote total. Right? So Bloomberg, but here's the thing about Bloomberg. Bloomberg had to be the alternative to Biden, right? That's the niche he had to fill. And he was counting on Biden's campaign continuing this downward spiral where it just crashes, burns, and dies. And then here's Bloomberg as the only legitimate alternative to Bernie Sanders. Well, that didn't happen. Biden came out, won South Carolina, huge. And now he's out here on Super Tuesday winning all these states, leaving Bloomberg with nothing. So there's no point for Bloomberg to stay in this anymore. This was going to be his big shot. Super Tuesday was going to be his chance to win a bunch of delegates and prove to the country that he was a legitimate candidate for president. And he's not. Not anymore.
He's quite the example that I guess you can't buy an election, right?
Well, we've still got the DNC coming up, but yeah, I think what Nathan said there was like it looked like Biden was going to crash and burn, and I think the Democratic establishment were like, okay, we need a guy who's going to be like the business Democrat, the old blue blood establishment type, going to look at Money Mike, and he's gonna come in and salvage this thing from the ashes. And then Biden had his turnaround that he did, and then all of the shit came out about Bloomberg's past. I tried to get the hashtag #AltMike trending, didn't work, but it is what it is. But all of his sexist stuff, all of his racist stuff, and it's not like the vaguely racist stuff that Donald Trump says that can be construed as being racist if you take it out of context or edit it a certain way. Bloomberg's like, yeah, those minorities, we got to stop them.
Well, they're I guess one could say there are actual policies behind the sound bites and that people can look at. Yeah, I didn't realize just how loathed Bloomberg was. I was living in the city while Bloomberg was mayor. The guy pulled one of those things where he ended up serving 3 terms. Which was a pretty you see that kind of maneuver in Latin America with the strongmen in politics. So
Viva la Bloomberg.
Yeah. I was actually today, because I'm in New York. I was like, am I supposed to vote? Like, I don't get it. So I think apparently I'm in. I think I cast my ballot in June or something like that. So
yeah. So I think in New York, Bloomberg's a lot more popular than he is in the rest of the country. Because he's a New York Democrat, right? He's a business Democrat.
Well, he was independent at one point. Well, he was a Republican, and then he was independent, and I forget which term he made that switch. But there was one clip I saw where he was talking about just how much money he had spent on Democratic candidates, and like giving to their races and their campaigns. And he actually slipped and said, "I bought them." He said, "I bought," and then he corrected himself for. So that was an interesting slip. Yeah.
Freudian slip right there.
Yeah.
Old Nanny Bloomers, you know, but you know, that's the thing. I don't really think that if he would have just out and out said it, I don't really think he would have cared. A couple weeks ago, we talked to one of our guests about just the type of arrogant person that he is. It's not that he says and does things that make you think that he thinks he's better than you. He thinks he's better than you, and he's not afraid to tell you.
Oh, sure. When I was single some years back, I went on a date that a friend of mine had set up, and the woman I went out with, she had a very high paying job and all that, and we started talking a little bit about politics, just real benign stuff. And I pointed out, like, yeah, you got Bloomberg here trying to ban sodas that are over, however many ounces. And I'm like, that's just, that's just ridiculous. I know what's good for me, or at least I should have the freedom to put into my body whatever I want. It was, one of those basic, sort of
Right.
conversations. And she said, yeah, like, what's good for you, but they don't know. And
The minorities don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Like the image in your mind that pops in your head of they don't know. They need to be protected from themselves. And it
those dumb ones, the poor people.
It grossed me out, and it was, I mean, just like that quintessential elitist, I know what's best for everyone, and I can't persuade you to change your lifestyle or to do something differently. So I'm going to look for coercion, and that's one of the real ugly things about Bloomberg.
I mean, it's creepy, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a creepy thing to run into somebody who thinks this way.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, you won't do what I want you to do, but I really want you to do it. So I'm just going to kind of coerce you to do it. And here's the ironic part about it, right? What was that guy's name? That black man who was killed by the cops in New York for selling cigarettes?
Eric Garner.
Eric Garner, right? A perfect example of this. Eric Garner was selling black market cigarettes on the streets of New York because New York's taxes on cigarettes had made them so expensive that people were turning to the black market to obtain them instead, right? The policies of people like Bloomberg and creepy people who want to control people's lives, these policies coming to fruition. This is the natural result of trying to control people's lives by raising taxes on items that you don't want them to use. People go to the black market to them. And then what happens? The cops are enforcing these laws that you want, and then a man gets killed. And then what do you want to do? Then you want to be outraged. Then you want to be pissed off. Then you want to say, oh, these cops, they're all racist. They're horrible. They're evil. Like, no. You don't understand. They're enforcing your rules.
Hey,
they're doing what you're asking them to do. And now you want to act like you're shocked and pissed off about this? This is your fault.
And you know what? I don't want to paint myself as a hero in this situation, because I wasn't. Because even though I was grossed out by, her elitist attitude, I still went back to her place and we made out because apparently she lived in the same building as Kanye West, and I thought that was cool. So I wanted to go see. I wanted to go see what her apartment looked like.
Stunning and brave.
Yeah,
take one for the team.
If I was like for like class warfare, I would be thrown into a guillotine right now for betraying the people.
I'm picturing you sitting there with this girl, thinking, gross, man, that is the most vile thing I've ever heard a human being say. But you are kind of hot.
Oh no, she wasn't even that hot. Yeah,
even worse.
Yeah, even worse.
Traitor. There is no forgiveness now.
I know. It was all about yo, this girl lives in the building with Kanye. Let's see what happens here.
So,
Maybe you'll
You
be
went-
in the elevator or something.
Yeah, I
You-
wasn't even a Kanye fan. Like, it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
you went back with this girl just for the off chance that you might run into Kanye West.
So pathetic. This was over probably over 8 years ago, maybe close to 9 years ago. I was newly single, so I'm gonna chalk up some of my craziness and my lack of ethics to that. So
Yes.
maybe
Well,
that'll save me.
speak of the devil, I just got a text message here in one of our group chats that Bloomberg is planning to reassess his campaign tomorrow morning, which means he's going to be dropping out. So I guess his big gamble on Super Tuesday did not go the way that he wanted it to.
Does that mean he'll be stopping all of the Bloomberg memes? Like, is he putting all the meme makers out of work? What's going on with that?
The ads might stop, but the memes won't stop. The memes can't stop. The memes just won't stop.
Can't stop, won't stop.
The memes will go on, but please, for the love of God, stop the ads. Stop the ads. I'm even seeing them in Nebraska. Nebraska's not a battleground state. No one cares about our electoral votes. Why the fuck am I seeing these ads?
Yeah, our votes are apportioned too, so it's like he might get one.
I'm wondering, since you were at the the libertarian event, what role does what's happening in the Democratic Party? Were people talking about that at that event, or
Not
how was that
really.
affecting things? Or
Nobody was really paying attention because by that time the caucus had already happened in Iowa. Everyone's kind of moved on from it. No one was talking about the Democrats. They were too busy listening to libertarians duke it out with each other, which was pretty hilarious. This is like the first year I can remember where libertarians are actually giving a damn about our own primary. Because like the last two elections, it was Gary Johnson all the way, right? And before that, the LP was so minuscule, much more small than it is today. I know that says it because it's even tiny today. But like the last 8 years, Gary Johnson, and before that, nobody gave a damn because nobody knew who any of these people were, right? Just like, oh, whoever wins doesn't matter because I don't know who they are anyway, right?
Right, and
So
because the libertarian savior was a Republican at the time, Ron Paul, and he wasn't running. So,
And then when it wasn't him, it was like,
who cares?
yes, the LP's still here.
I played. I performed at Gary Johnson's last campaign stop in San Diego. I did a stand-up comedy set, and obviously it's in San Diego, California. I was voting in New York, and I opened and I told everybody, so happy to be here tonight. But right after my set, I got to go to the airport because I got to fly to New York to vote for Gary Johnson. Everyone's like, yeah, whew. And I'm like, because we know if I don't vote for Gary Johnson in New York, there's no way he's going to win it in New York. But you know what? Gary Johnson didn't show up to his own event, to his own campaign event. Man, I was like, oh, come on, man. This is the last stop. The last stop. Come on, Gary.
Come on, Gary.
He kind of had a habit of being a little bit uninvolved in his own campaign, and that really disappointed me. I went to the Orlando convention in 2016, and I voted for him. I kind of broke ranks with the rest of the delegates from our state, and everybody from Nebraska voted for Austin Peterson. And in hindsight, I should have too. Not that it would have made a difference, but solidarity. But he just kind of seemed like he was there, but he wasn't there. And
The dude was high all the time. Gary Johnson was high all the fucking time. I don't think he's been sober since the election. I mean, I don't blame the guy. If he wants to be high, whatever. But Jesus, dude, you could tell. You could just tell by looking at him. Like, this guy is a stoner.
Yep.
Here's the funniest thing. So we want to talk a little bit more about the election. So if you guys have any hope that Biden's going to be a moderate, you might want to put that to rest, because one of the people that he's getting to support him right now is none other than faux Mexican Mr. Francis O'Rourke. And we thought we were done with this guy. We thought we were done talking about him forever because seriously, this guy doesn't have a single accomplishment to his name. I don't know why the hell he thought he was going to run for president. He failed in the Senate race and he just jumped from one failure to another. But now he's got senile old man Biden using him to propel himself to victory on Super Tuesday. So here's a clip of Biden with O'Rourke.
Clear. I want to make something clear. I'm going to guarantee you this is not last year's scene of this guy.
Okay, what? Didn't hear that again.
I want to make something clear. I'm going to guarantee you this is not last year's scene of this guy. You're going to take care of the gun problem with me. You're going to be the one that leads this effort. I'm counting on you.
Does he know where he is?
Probably not.
Does he know who's standing next to him? Does he have any idea at all what's going on?
Well, I mean, the fact that he said he's going to lead the effort, like, does he expect Beto to go door to door? You know,
oh
like,
God, I hope so.
He's like, I'm coming to your door. I'm gonna knock it down. I'm gonna find your guns. We're gonna take them.
It's like the Freedom Tunes episode where he was trying to confiscate Ben Shapiro's pop gun, where he's like, Ben, give up your guns. Gosh. No.
Joe Biden cannot put together an intelligible sentence to save his life. Now, without stumbling over his own words or saying something just idiotic. So let's get that out of the way. Joe Biden, again, just mumbling incoherently.
I wonder with that, if all the clips that we're sort of seeing of Joe Biden, if it's happening, at these rallies in front of large groups of people, is it late at night? I mean, it's been a very long time since I've seen him, sit down for a proper interview, that I wonder, maybe there's a chance that on like a one-on-one, say a little bit less chaotic sort of scenario, he might do better. I don't know.
I mean, he might, but I mean, it's not like all these gaffes are like forced errors. Like you just memorize a speech, say the speech, you forget what you're saying, look down at the speech, get your bearings, move on. But it's like some of these things, he just goes on and it just gets more and more bizarre. Like, okay, this clip I just showed, he's just mumbling and stumbling over his words. Okay, he's an old senile man. Okay, but like the corn pop story, it just kept going and going and going. And with each word that came out of his mouth, it got more and more bizarre. Like at one point, he's talking about how he would wrap chains around people's heads, how little kids would fill up his legs and get in his lap, and he'd like it. Like, Joe.
Call people roaches. No, I think that that at this point there's a real possibility that Joe might have dementia or senility, and he might also be a stalking horse. He hasn't announced who he wants to be his running mate, and I think that the DNC might be banking on the fact that he will be the guy that they put out there to run for president, and they'll put the guy that they really want to be president as the VP, and then a few months into his presidency, there might be a 25th Amendment thing. Oh, Joe's got dementia. He's going senile. He doesn't know where he's at. He's not mentally fit to be president. We're going to remove him from office. So sad. Here is President who the fuck ever.
And that's the thing. This is all coming at the expense of Bernie Sanders, obviously. And couldn't happen to a nicer guy, Mr. Bernie Sanders. He's having a rough night tonight. But, I mean, here's the thing about Sanders. He would get eaten alive by Trump if he went into a debate. And him or Biden, both. But, I mean, how can you watch this and not see a guy who is completely cucked and can't even stand up for himself on his own stage?
Bernie, I'm your biggest supporter, and I'm here to ask you to stop talking.
Like, he just gives up and walks away. Like, okay, fine, you can have it. And watch. And then this happens. This is the kind of shenanigans that happens at Bernie Sanders rallies. His own supporters.
Boobies. Sorry.
His own supporters don't respect him enough to not get on stage and steal his mic. And this is reminiscent of an incident that happened 4 years ago, right? Where a couple of Black Lives Matter protested, got up on stage, and shut down his event.
Thank you, Seattle, for being one of the most progressive cities in the United States of America.
Of course, that happened in Seattle.
Well, he was baiting them basically by saying it's one of the most progressive cities, and they're like, "Yeah, we're going to show you. We're going to take your mic."
And they go, "This is going to be okay with you."
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And they,
Well, ask him.
Yeah.
They're shutting the event down now. You gotta love that, right? The entitlement of these people. Like, no, if he wanted to, he could have just said, "Hey, security, please escort these two fine individuals off the premises because I don't want them shutting down my event."
Yeah, or I mean, the fact that they even got that close. I mean, obviously it makes for very awkward, almost America's Funniest Home Videos sort of highlights. But from a just from a logistical standpoint, it's like, wow, is this how easy it is to get close to somebody who's running for office? Like that's that's dangerous.
yeah.
I mean, it just keeps going too. I mean, this clip goes on and on. Look, she's got her hand in her face. She's yelling at him. He's just kind of sitting there taking it.
Did they ever do a follow up with these people, with the like the BLM members, or the or the latest one, the topless milk lover? I guess
I'm sure
is she
somebody
a
has.
milk lover, or does she not like milk?
She's like she's like a vegan, right?
Got
So
it.
she's like against dairy products or whatever, which is it's a very weird thing to try to make. Hey, Bernie, make this the central plank of your campaign, being against milk, right? Like this guy doesn't already have enough baggage to deal with, right? He's already getting accusations left and right that he's a communist, but you want to add being anti-milk on top of all that.
Well,
Do you really think you're doing him any favors?
It's really important to stay on message, and it's sort of like Joaquin Phoenix's Academy Awards speech, where, like, look, man, if there are people who have causes that they're really they're really passionate about, but it's like, okay, well then pick like one or two of them to talk about, as opposed to just throwing everything out there. And you might have a little bit more. I don't know. You might do a little better, at least in the coherence category.
I mean,
we can't forget that a few years ago the alt-right was trying to co-opt milk as like a white supremacist symbol. So maybe that's what her issue is with it. She just still hung up on a 4chan joke that got taken too far. A bunch of white guys going like this and drinking milk.
I really wish you guys didn't do that, because someone's going to take a screen grab and they're going to be like, "We the Internet TV's Lou Perez was on this program and he allowed them."
with a nudist from Central Nebraska and some alt-right Puerto Rican. Yeah.
Wait, nudist? Who? Wait, ooh, you guys buried the lead. But we're we're almost done, and you're talking about someone who's a nudist.
I'm not a nudist. I was on an episode of Naked and Afraid.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Did you win?
This makes him a nudist to me.
Did you win?
Well, there's no winning, but I made it. I made it the whole 21 days.
Were you? Well, we know you were naked, but were you afraid at any point?
No, I was itchy, really itchy.
He was very itchy.
Naked and itchy is something I can relate to a lot more than Naked and Afraid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently, there were cockroaches like that big just crawling around their naked bodies while they slept. It was very funny for me to watch from home. But when I found out that he was on Naked and Afraid, I turned off the computer. I went out to the living room like, babe, we got to watch this. Do it right now. And we did. And it was glorious.
I imagine, like seriously, we've been talking for like an hour. It's almost my bedtime. I bet it's impossible for you to bring that up and not have everyone just want to talk about that forever, because that's all I want to talk about right now. Like I don't care that there's a coronavirus and all this crazy shit. I don't care. I want to talk about Naked and Afraid.
Well, we can after the broadcast is over offline. It's not as awesome as you might think it is.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. He told me about this at the end of one of these episodes. So it was like 5 minutes left in the episode. It's like, yeah, it was a Naked and Afraid. Like, hold the fuck up. Hold up. Excuse me. You were on Naked and Afraid. Like, yeah, what's the big deal? What's the big deal?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's hilarious. So yeah, what Dustin Hobbs on Naked and Afraid.
Yeah.
Quite hilarious. So we didn't even get to there were quite a few stories we wanted to get to. We want to talk about Venezuelans tattooing people's arms in order for them to get food from grocery stores. Utah school that's forcing students. Yeah, Utah school that's forcing students to dance with each other even though they don't want to. And a doctor for Donald Trump putting cauliflower in his mashed potatoes to force him to eat better. All fun stuff.
Departed.
And taking his ice cream away.
Like a toddler.
Like literally taking away his ice cream. I'm picturing Donald Trump going to every fridge in the White House because they got to have a ton of them, right? He's going to every fridge. Where's my ice cream? I want my Rocky Road. It's nowhere to be found. I know I put Rocky Road in this fridge and it's not here. Where did you put it? Did you take it? You're fired.
Oh my God! For a second there, I thought it was actually Donald Trump talking. I thought you had audio of Donald Trump looking for his ice cream.
I'm sure that audio exists in real life somewhere, and somebody has it on their phone, and we're gonna get to hear it right before the election. I can't wait.
You can grab ice cream by the pussy. They let you do it when you're famous.
Ice cream can't say no.
I found a carton of Neapolitan in the fridge, but it was only the strawberry. It's bullshit. You're fired.
All right, Lou. We got a few minutes left. Why don't you tell us about your channel and about some of your upcoming projects?
Sure. So you guys can check out all my stuff at We the Internet TV on YouTube and Facebook. We're on Twitter as well. On Twitter, I am the Lou Perez. Please follow me. So, like we talked about earlier, we have a new documentary called 5 Reasons Why We Need Sweden's Democratic Socialism. It just dropped on Friday, so I hope you guys could check that out. And if you subscribe and hang with us, we have a bunch of pretty epic sketches coming up. One of them is a parody of Netflix's The Irishman, and it's going to be called The Union Men. So, without giving too much away,
is it also 17 hours long?
We're trying to get there. We're trying to get there. It might be the longest sketch we've ever done. So we'll see.
All right, Lou. Good. Thank you for coming on the show. It's been a blast having you on. Love your content. Love your channel. Can't wait to see some of that stuff you got in the pipes for us in the future. All right, everybody. That's going to be it for us. It's getting late. We all got to go to bed. We're all old men who can't stay up too late and can't hold our liquor too well. So remember to subscribe to the Think Liberty podcast. Like us on Facebook. We're also on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. So get on that. Like our channel. Subscribe. Hit the little bell button on YouTube. Whatever you got to do to make sure you see this content. And remember, this show is live every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Central. Oh, and before we leave, I want to say a few things about upcoming interviews. We have Mark Whitney coming up this coming Thursday. That's going to be the 5th at 9 p.m. Stay tuned for that. That's going to be a lot of fun. I got Laura Epke coming in a few weeks, and presidential candidate Sam Robb at the end of the month. So looking forward to all of that. We'll see you there, guys. Have a good night, everybody. Stay sane.